رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وعزيمنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبي القاسم مصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين وأصحابه الغر الميامين. الحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. أما بعد، يقول الله في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وما خلقت الجن والإنس إلا ليعبدون. صلوات. In the name of God, the most beneficent, the most merciful, master of all the worlds, creator of the heavens and the earth. The discussion concerning why we worship God is without a doubt a fundamental discussion within Islamic theology. When we look at why we worship God, we begin to ask ourselves, why is it that I have to pray 5 times a day? Why is it that I have to fast during the month of Ramadan? Why do I have to read Abu Hamd al-Thumali? Why do I have to read Dua Kumail on every Friday night? Or for example, the Ajawsh al-Kabir, which we did tonight. Why do I have to go to Hajj once at least in my lifetime? Imam Ali alayhi salam in Nahj al-Balagha highlights a beautiful explanation as to why we worship God. Because when we have an atheist friend, our atheist friend asks us, why do you believe in God? Why does your God need your worship? The atheist turns around and says, why does your God need worship? Is he not Ar-Raziq as you claim him to be? Is he not the one who is the sustainer? And he himself is self-sustained. They make a pretty valid point when they say, isn't your God all-powerful? And because if he's all-powerful, then he doesn't need your worship. Why do you need to worship your God? In another sense, they're trying to say, is your God a narcissist? Why is it that your God needs your worship? The first question we need to ask ourselves is, why did God create us? What's the meaning of life? Because that's the primary question. The secondary question is why we worship God. The first question is why God created us. Because secondary to that question is why we worship God. Now, when we speak to our atheist friend, the general answer that is given is the ayah from the Quran, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. And I did not create the humans and the jinn except so that they may worship me. But then the atheist turns around and says, look, that's circular because A, it's from your book, not necessarily mine. And at the same time, you're telling me that God is the self-sustainer, He is Ar-Raziq. So what exactly is it God that needs from me? Why is it that He needs my worship? Let me summarize. Imagine God says to you, look, my dear friend, I have created you and I want you to fast, I want you to pray, I want you to go to Hajj, I want you to give zakat, I want you to do all of that, and at the end of it, I'll give you a reward called Jannah. But if you don't do it, then I've got a blazing hell prepared for you, and that's called Jahannam. If you speak like that to an atheist, do you think they'll be convinced about joining a religion? I don't think so. Ask yourself, if I was born as an atheist, would I have converted to the religion? Or is it because my dad's name is Ali, my mum's name is Fatima, therefore I claim to be a Shia? Or my mother's name is Hafsa, my father's name is Talha, then I claim to be a Sunni. Or my father's name is Paul, my mother's name is Mary, therefore I am a Christian. Is my belief in God because of my rational inquiry and knowledge through education? Or is it because dad tells me, you know what, you need to worship God, and if you don't worship God, then I'll hit you, or God's going to send you to hellfire? That's a question we need to ask ourselves, and hopefully we'll keep on pondering about it through this lecture. So, what's the purpose of God creating us? Because how I answer this question determines actually why I worship God. The beauty of this question is that a 5-year-old can ask this question, but a 55-year-old can also ask this question. And it will still be relevant to both ages. If a 5-year-old asks you, why do we worship God? That's a valid question. If a 55-year-old person asks you, why do we worship God? That's a valid question. That's the beauty of this question. Because if I can answer this question, then ibadah tastes different. My prayer is different. How I approach my prayer is different. It's not that if I don't understand or answer this question, then prayer is boring, I don't feel like praying, dad is forcing me to do it, I just want to get it over and done with, I feel as if it's a chore and not necessarily something I want to do. So these are the two perspectives when we look at that question. So why worship God? Or why did God create us, sorry? This question became one of the great discussions in philosophical circles. So we had a rise in history of French existentialists. So they were a group of people who came around and he said, the meaning of life, you have to find yourself. The meaning of life, you have to find yourself. So whatever that brings you satisfaction, contentment, that's your meaning of life. If, on the other hand, you don't feel like life is going well and maybe people don't like you, dunya isn't treating you that well, get a shovel, get a rope, finish it. Finish your life. Because from an existentialist framework, there's no concept of accountability. There's no concept of qiyamah. There's no concept of justice being implemented. Because to them, from an existentialist perspective, you have anarchy somehow bringing order. You have amino acids and a set of proteins somehow bringing you a genius like Albert Einstein. Whereas if we look from the Islamic perspective, why God created us or what's the meaning of life, subhanAllah, we try to make it complicated. We give these philosophical answers, we give these scientific answers, we try to sound complicated and smart. The answer is quite simple. Why God created us is very simple. The moment you understand why God created us, your whole output, your whole view of life changes. And you know what the answer is? To find happiness. The meaning of life is to find happiness. So when an atheist asks you, why do you believe in God? You then turn around the table to them and it's almost a reverse you say, I'm in disbelief, you don't believe in a God. Why? Because to you, somehow, something comes out of nothing. That's on the first level. On the second level, how can 0 plus 0 ever give you mathematically 1? On the third level, how is it that ignorance somehow produces knowledge? On the fourth level, how is it that a simple fish of the sea turns out to be one of the greatest thinkers of history? This is from their perspective. Because from a Muslim's perspective, and many other perspectives of course, I am the effect, and for this effect there has to be a cause, which caused that effect. And for that effect there was another cause. So in other words, I came into this world because of my parents, and they came because of their parents, and so on and so forth. But what created them ultimately was God. Then the question arises, who created God? This is where we come to a conclusion where you say there has to be a first necessary cause. I, from my conclusion, say that that first necessary cause is God. You can call it what you like. I say that first necessary cause is God. Because if I say what created God, then it will be what created that, and it will be what created that. It will go on infinitely. That's why it's called, there's a theory called the Occam's razor theory, which means that if you have a complicated theory or a set of theories, you look at the most simple one. Meaning what? There has to be a first cause to everything. As part of my pursuit to happiness, because I said meaning of life is wanting to find happiness, on my journey to finding happiness, I want to see order as to why I'm here. Why am I here? SubhanAllah, Islam says beautifully. It says the reason why you're here is because you have two identities. Your first identity is your physical identity. Your second identity is your metaphysical identity. Which means what? Which means your body and your soul. From an existentialist perspective, there's no soul, it's just body. Because there's no accountability. Whereas Islamic perspective, you have two identities, soul and body. When I want to look after my body, in my pursuit of happiness, I want to take care of my body. I want my body to be in pristine shape. So when something happens to my body and I feel sick, what do? I go to the doctors or I go to the chemist. I go to the chemist, let's say Chemist Warehouse, I'll use an example. We go to the Chemist Warehouse and you say, Mr. Pharmacist, I've got a headache and can you please give me something to help with my headache? I say, here, paracetamol, Panadol. I've got hay fever, can I get something for hay fever? Okay, Nurofen, there you go. I've got something for extreme pain, can you give something for extreme pain? He says, yes, okay, here's some oxycodone. That's what we have for when we are ill. Now, as part of my meaning of pursuit of happiness, I don't want my body to just settle for when it's sick. At the same time, I want to get the perks of my body. What do I mean? I want my body to be in good shape. Meaning what? I want six packs, I want abs, I want biceps, I want triceps, I want quads, you know? And for my body to be in that good shape, I do my exercises. Of course, we all want it, but when we eat biryani tonight, and we have korma tomorrow night, and we have ashak the following night, and we have mantu the following night, then the dreams of six-pack is slowly fading away. It's nice, like it tastes nice. Biryani tastes nice, mantu tastes nice, but your dream of six-pack is also slowly going by itself. Anyway, so when I do these set of exercises, I want my body to reach the ultimate state of physique, right? When we do these exercises, why a person does exercises matters from one person to another. Meaning what? Meaning there are three reasons as to why a person exercises. The first reason why a person exercises is the fear of a heart attack, or a fear of high blood pressure, or fear of, for example, diabetes. If they don't run on that treadmill, then they're scared they're gonna have another panic attack, another seizure, another heart attack, their blood sugar levels might rise. So that's the first group of people who exercise out of fear of heart attacks or illnesses. The second group of people who exercise is because they want to get the perks of looking good. Let's be honest, it feels nice walking on a beach with a trimmed body, abs, muscles, everything, right? Nobody wants to walk with a shirt on, especially when you're going swimming, because you've got a belly, you kind of want to be a bit... Anyway, when you look good, there's higher chances of getting jobs. In our social society, it's seen as more attractive as well. People who exercise have a bit more trimmer bodies, they're a bit more attractive to people. When you apply for a job, you're more likely to get one, especially when you're looking trim in that suit. Whereas maybe if you're not looking so presentable, then the employer will be saying, sorry, the company is not fitting with the guidelines that you're presenting. Whereas if you're looking trim and you're looking buff in that suit, you're more likely to be recruited into the job. So the second group of people who exercise is because they want the perks of looking good. They want the rewards. And there's the final one. And the final one is the highest group. What do I mean? The third reason why people exercise is because they realize that reward or no reward, this body is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When I say inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un, what does that mean? It means my body belongs to Allah, and to Allah it will return. This does not belong to me, this belongs to Allah. This is a trust from God. I want to respect this body. So whether I get rewards for it of doing exercises or not, I have to be grateful for what Allah has given me. I have eyes, others may not be able to see. I have ears, others may not be able to hear. I have limbs, others may not be able to walk. I have a roof on top of my head, others may not have a house. I have food on my plate, others go to sleep hungry. These are the very basic things that we take for granted. So that's the third group of people who exercise. They exercise because they respect the trust that was given to them by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They say, Ya Allah, I love you so much that this body that you've given me, I will treat it with respect. This does not belong to me, it belongs to you. Now, what I just described for the body, Imam Ali alayhi salam describes for the soul. I want you to ask yourself, because we looked at exercise from a physical lens. You don't want to get, obese, you're scared of heart attacks, you want to look good, whatever. What about when your soul needs something? Your soul, when your ruh needs something. How do you feed your ruh? Okay, so let's say we use pharmacist example again. I go to chemist, I see Mr. Pharmacist. Mr. Pharmacist, I've got a story to tell you. Mr. Pharmacist thinking, what's this guy on about? Mr. Pharmacist, I'm in my pursuit to happiness. As part of my pursuit to happiness, I want to get the best out of my body and soul. So I am suffering from a disease called hasad, which is jealousy. Can you give me something over the counter to help with that? The pharmacist says, what's jealousy? I don't like my friends doing well. I get jealous when my friend gets awards and I don't. That's a disease. That's a disease of my soul. So my Christian friend has it. My atheist friend has that disease. My Buddhist friend has that disease. My Jewish friend has that disease. And my Muslim friend has that disease. We don't like seeing each other do well in life. So Mr. Pharmacist, can you give me a prescription to help with that disease? The pharmacist will slap his face and say, Habibi, this is a pharmacy for the body, not for the soul. The psychiatric ward is over on that side. If you want to go to the mental hospital, it's over there, but the type of stuff that you're bringing forward. Like the chemist being a pharmacy for the body, Ali ibn Abi Talib is a pharmacy for the soul. Because when you truly begin to look at Imam Ali's description of worshipping God, you truly understand how he feeds and nurtures the soul of a human being. The reason for why I worship God is because I found a set of actions in my worship, in my pursuit of happiness, that allows me to look after my body and my soul. I can show my gratefulness to God through a set of actions, a set of exercises, and through this I show Him for how grateful I am for what He has given me. When I want to be grateful for my body, how do I show gratefulness for my body? I don't allow rubbish to enter my body. So we try to limit junk food. We don't drink alcohol. We don't eat pork. We don't allow nonsense to enter our body. That's how you show gratefulness for your body. When you worship God, that's not the ends. It's a means. Your means is finding happiness. We pray. We give zakat. And we fast. And so on and so on. These are all means of finding happiness. The ends is finding happiness. Because what our ultimate goal is to find happiness. Did I not say at the start that the purpose of life is to find happiness? So when you develop that relationship with Allah, you find happiness. That's why the Quran says, "Ala bi dhikrillah tatma'anna al-qulub." With remembrance of God, the heart finds ease. When you remember Allah, your heart is content, it's satisfied. Ala bi dhikrillah tatma'anna al-qulub. When we do our gym exercises, we do our reps and we do our sets and so on and so forth, they allow you to get stronger. Likewise, Muharram, Ramadan, Laylatul Qadr, these are the exercises for your soul to get stronger. That's why Rasulullah said that a moment of reflection is greater than 70 years of dry worship. 70 years. When you reflect in what you do, that in itself is better than 70 years of worship. Maybe that recitation of Dua Makarim al-Akhlaq changed your attitude towards your brother that you may have not spoken to in years. Maybe that friend that you hadn't seen for such a long time, that dua was a moment of reflection for you. Imam Sajjad alayhi salam in Dua Makarim al-Akhlaq said, Ya Allah, turn the hatred of my enemies into love for me. How many of us want our enemies to love us? We all have enemies, let's face it. We have a look around this room. We've all got some people we don't like, but we just don't say it to their face. So Imam is saying, Ya Allah, turn the hatred of my enemy into love for me. Tonight I see a lot of faces. Why don't I go and say salam to somebody that I haven't seen before? Why don't I be a bit more hospitable? Why don't I be a bit more nice to someone? That is reflection, not worship. When you do the a'mal in the month of Ramadan, in a night like this, because it's a blessed night, when you do the a'mal, you don't even have to do it. Just sit there, chill, relax. Okay? When you reflect, when you put the Quran on your head, just relax, just be in the moment, reflect. What am I doing in life so far? Is what I'm doing, the Quran in my head, going to change my behavior? Or am I doing it because everybody else is doing it and I don't want to look like the odd one out? Because if that piece of reflection changes you as a human being, Shahr Ramadan is complete for you. You don't have to read the entirety of Dua Jawshan Kabir. You don't have to read the entirety of Dua Abu Hamd al-Somali. One line of Abu Hamd al-Somali, if it changes you, Ramadan is complete for you. So as you mentioned, why worshipping God? It's not an end, it's a means to finding happiness. Because when you worship God, God says back to you, Ya Abdi, أطعني فيما أمرتك أجعلك لشيء فقول لشيء كن فيكون. O my servant, obey me with that which I have given you. I'll give you the authority to say be and it will be. If you obey me, if you listen to what I tell you, I'm going to raise you so high that you will truly understand what life is. You want proof? I'll give you proof. Jesus cured the blind. Jesus revived the dead. Jesus walked on water. Jesus cured the ill. Moses split the sea. Moses, his cane turned into a serpent. Rasulullah, splitting of the moon. These are all miracles that is done through obedience to God. In the Battle of Khaybar, when Imam Ali came forward, he had an infection on his eye. He couldn't fight. The Holy Prophet, peace be upon him and his family, put his blessed saliva on the eye of Imam Ali, and Ali said, that day I saw like never better. My performance on the day of Khaybar was something different. So when we look at the types of worship, Imam says there are 3 types of worshippers. The first type of worshipper is worshipping God out of his fear of hell. So we worship God because we're scared of not going to hell, right? We don't want to go to hell. Imam says that's the worship of a slave. The first reason a person worships God is the fear of hell. Imam says that's the worship of a slave, because the slave is scared of the master. Now, there are majlises that we have, and we are always taught about Qiyamah, hell, Jahannam, grave, death, everything. There's nothing wrong with having majlises around death and Qiyamah. But if that's the only sole purpose of your majlis, which leads people away from the religion, then Imam attacks those people. Takhweef or khawf, fear, is in the Quran. There's no such bad thing being scared of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No doubt. Worshipping Allah out of fear is not a bad thing. But you can strive to get to the other level of worship. It's not a bad level, but you strive to get better. Meaning what? Meaning the second group of people who worship God is out of the rewards of heaven. So they turn around and say, is it true that every night or on a night like this, if I put a Quran on my head and I say a few du'as, then I'm going to get Jannah? Or if I read Dua Jawshul Kabir, then I have so and so forth mansions in paradise for me? I mean, you've missed the whole point. They're not the reason for you to get Jannah. Yes, of course, Jannah is one of them. But the reason for you to read dua is for you to build that relationship with God. The Quran does mention race towards Jannah and forgiveness from God. Race towards it. So the second group of people who worship God is the worship of businessmen. Because they're like, you know what, God, I'm gonna pray to you, I'm gonna read dua, I'm gonna fast, and in the end, I want you to do a contract agreement with me and give me heaven. So that's the worship of a merchant. It's not a bad level, but we should strive to go to higher. And then there's the final level, which is the highest level according to Imam Salih alayhi salam. He says the third group of people worship God because they love Him. They find Him worthy of worship. That's the worship of a free human being. Meaning what? Meaning if there is Jannah or there is no Jannah, if there is hell or there is no hell, it doesn't matter. The fact that I can talk to you, Allah, is in itself a blessing for me. I worship you because I want to speak with you. It's the lover talking to his beloved. In another line where he says, لَوْ كُشِفَ لِيَ الْغَطَاء مَزْدَدْتُ يَقِينًا وَلَا إِيمَانًا. He says, remove the veils between me and God. It does not increase nor decrease my certainty in Him, my faith in Him, my belief in Him. In other words, he's saying, oh Allah, I am so thankful for everything that you give me, and I want to speak to you. I never ever want to be separated from you. Ahlul Bayt, when they speak about worshipping God, it's not because there was hell and heaven, it's because they loved Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They were not too concerned about the rivers and the honeys and Jannah and so on. It's because they found worthiness of worshipping God. When we say Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, what does it mean? It doesn't mean I bear witness that there is God, no God but Allah. It's I bear witness that there is no God worthy of worship but Allah. That's the worship of a free human being. SubhanAllah. I want to feed my soul. I am thankful to Allah. He's given me eyes. He's given me, for example, limbs. He's given me a job. Others aren't necessarily employed. I have an income. I have rizq, sustenance. Others may not necessarily have an income. Because when we call out to Allah, Allah is always near to you. He says it quite beautifully in the Quran. وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِي. When my servant asks you about me, tell him that I am near, I am close to him. I am closer to him than his very jugular veins. And I answer the supplications of the supplicant who supplicates towards me. When you call out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just know that He is Sami', He is Basir, He sees and He hears. When we want to go for a job interview, you want to book an appointment with a doctor, you have to wait a week to see that doctor, right? If you want to go get a job, you have to wait a week for your appointment to get a job. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always there with you. The creator of the heavens and the earth is always there with you. You don't need an appointment to go see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Any other person will say, you can't see the CEO. Who are you? If you want to see the CEO, I'll make a reservation for you. You can have an appointment with him next week. How about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? He's always there. You speak to him. He never leaves you. Ali Shari'ati used to say that if everyone leaves you, just know Allah is with you. That's enough for you. Your mom may leave you. Your dad may leave you. Your brother may leave you. Your family may leave you. Your friends may leave you. But understand that there is only one always with you, and that's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Never ever will He leave you. That's the CEO of the heavens and the earth. These are the words of wisdom from Imam Ali alayhi salam. What a beautiful night tonight is. And it is truly sad that Imam, during these nights, he was martyred. What words are so beautiful by Mawla. Because when he was struck by Ibn Muljam on the 19th of Ramadan, Jibreel cried out loud, "Tahaddamat wallah arkan al-huda." By Allah, the pillars of guidance have been destroyed. When Ali was struck, the foundations of guidance was perished, was destroyed. Khomeini later on would say, Khomeini was a companion of Imam Ali. He says, when I lost my Mawla, when I lost Ali ibn Abi Talib, it's as if I lost the keys to the secrets of the universe. I had a gem in my life. That gem was Ali. When I lost that gem, I could not replace it. Nor could I get someone better. That gem was Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen. His wisdom is unequaled. That's Ali ibn Abi Talib. It truly is a tragedy that that Ali ibn Abi Talib lost his life 2 nights ago. Or last night I should say. 21st of Ramadan is when Imam is struck and the poison is hitting him. The cut is so deep. He's in bed, he's hospitalized in bed. Imam Ali was struck right in the middle of his head. Now, before this, he was struck in the Battle of Khandaq by Amr ibn Wood. Amr ibn Wood had struck him so deeply that he had pierced his head right in the middle, and that was a wound. Years later, when Ibn Muljam strikes him in the mosque of Kufa, it's that very same area he strikes. It's not just a strike, by the way. It's a strike with a poisonous sword. So A, it's a sword. B, there's poison on that sword. So when he strikes, it goes deep into that wound that was already cut years ago, which is why it was really difficult. Even Imam Ali could not survive such a strike. We truly lost a gem. That gem was Ali. But inshallah, we all may Allah give us all tawfiq so that we may stay steadfast on the path of Amir al-Mu'mineen with the conclusion of Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.